For more on this, we can go across to France 24's European Affairs editor, Catherine Nicholson. Catherine, Ukraine is set to dominate the agenda today. Ukraine, that's not a member of the European Union.
Indeed, but Ukraine, as you said, pretty much the only subject on the agenda here at this European summit. First of all, the leaders of the 27 member states of the EU and the leaders of the EU's institutions will be wanting to express their solidarity with Ukraine, with its government and people, and also wanting to call for a ceasefire from Russia. In terms of the specific topic areas on the agenda, as you said, energy is going to be one of the major issues and one of the first that the leaders will be talking about when they enter the summit in just a few minutes' time. We can expect to have something come out of this summit about reducing Europe's dependency on Russian oil and gas, but the specifics of that are hard to predict at this point. The European Union dependent on Russian gas for 40% of its gas supply and for 25% of its oil supply. So the question is, the Commission saying that the EU can reduce its dependency on gas, for example, by 2/3 this year if it wants to. But the question is, how far and how fast will the EU member states, individual leaders, want to go with that? Because, of course, there are costs for European economies. In terms of defence capabilities, the French presidential palace wanting to push for more reactivity in terms of defence and more investment both in national budgets and in the EU budget itself, although of course there is no such thing as a EU army or EU defence capability in terms of operations. So what form is that going to take? And then, as you mentioned as well, the wider context of all of this. First and foremost, the immediate economic blowback on the European Union itself of those very strict sanctions that it's taken on Russia. There are already impacts being seen in the economy, higher energy prices, for example, and longer term issues, making the EU less dependent on outside resources, Russian energy just being one example. President Macron has been calling for this some time, what he calls strategic autonomy. EU leaders looking at those longer term issues as well.
Catherine, last week Ukraine applied for membership to the European Union. Are we going to expect any breakthrough on that front or not at all?
You shouldn't be expecting any declaration today that Ukraine is starting the formal accession process. No, that is, a very particular process. There are many states that are already candidates and trying to accede into the European Union. However, what we are expecting to see is some sort of language on something like deepening the partnership between the EU and Ukraine and strengthening bonds between the EU and Ukraine. What does that mean? Well, there's an association agreement that's in place between the EU and Ukraine, has been there for several years. It's given Ukraine better access to trading with the EU, for example, or for Ukrainians to travel into the European Union. I've spoken to quite a few European lawmakers over the last couple of weeks, and many of them talking about sort of creating some sort of bespoke, enhanced partnership or association for Ukraine. So we'll be looking closely to see what kind of wording will come out of this summit. In any case, I spoke to one of the summit advisors a little earlier on, and he was saying that what's really important for the leaders today is that they want to give strong signals to Ukraine that they do have an EU perspective. That's the kind of language that we hear. And he said that it is about balancing these symbolic messages and these signals with concrete measures of support as well.